What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tuesday afternoon. We are at our regularly scheduled time. Thank you so much for, hanging out with me on this Tuesday afternoon for the Just Gonna Say It podcast. We're going to talk about acoustic guitars versus electric guitars today because the video that came out yesterday brought up some questions and some conversation, and I thought it would be kind of fun to chat about that stuff. So hopefully you can get in the comments and join us. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you like guitar stuff. 65% of you that watch my videos are not subscribed, and I'm trying to get to 100,000 this year. So do me a favor and hit that button. If you've been here more than once, I would really appreciate that. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon, which is, nope, not that one. Oh, maybe I accidentally deleted it. Patreon.com/DylanTalksTone, because that supports the channel and helps us to be able to review stuff like what we got to do yesterday, as well as other things that we have coming, because I just ordered another guitar, and that's all because of Patreon, as well as check out DylanTalksTone.com if you want pickups for your guitar. So there you go. There's our little plugs and such before we get into our conversation. So there's a bunch of links in the description too. Sweetwater, Runway audio cables, Close guitars, and a bunch of people that support our channel. So please support them. That would be very sweet. So, update you. Let's see, a couple of things. Oh, we went to a show on Friday night at Eddie's Attic in Atlanta, which was really, really fun. Songwriter from Nashville. It was really cool. Just him on a guitar. It was really cool. It was fun. I really enjoyed the fact that he didn't care about gear or anything. He played a Gretsch White Falcon and some acoustic I'd never heard of. I'm sure they were nice, but you could tell they've been toured a bunch. The Gretsch was all rattly. It needed some work. But who cares? Like, it didn't matter. It was just kind of fun. It was just, it's Eddie's Attic, so the PA is not like A1 amazing. It was almost like a glorified open mic night kind of vibe, if you will, but it was really small and really intimate. We were literally right next to the stage. We had a table right next to the stage. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those things where you just didn't care. I didn't care about the gear, I didn't care what was on his pedal board. I didn't care what he did. I just wanted to hear him play and sing. And his playing was better than his gear was. Like, he was just one of those guys, and it was just a really refreshing thing. And then Saturday we went to the Blade Show in Atlanta, and I bought a bunch of knives. And then I went to the gun store. So yeah, this weekend was fun. Maybe on Patreon I will show you what I bought. I'll show you a couple things I bought here on YouTube, but some things I will not show you on YouTube, but I will show you on Patreon. So make sure you subscribe for that over there. Let's see. Yeah, small places are really fun. It was really, really enjoyable. I went ahead and ordered the 24.75 scale Strat made out of Oakum with two P90s in it. I did it because I thought it would be fun, since I have these other, I have that custom P90 double cut that my friend built me, and I also have my SG here. I thought it would be really fun to have Fender's version of that to compare for playing wise. I don't care about tone, because we're going to put my pickups in. It's going to sound awesome. But just playing wise, I just want to feel it. When Fender does a 24/75 guitar, I'm interested in that. So we went ahead and did that. And actually everybody voted for that anyway. It was pretty overwhelming between YouTube and Facebook. That was That was the thing. So, yeah. Super cool. Well, here, I'll show you a couple of things before we get into the conversation. So, ProTech had a couple of automatics that were Blade Show specials. And this is, I think this is a TR5, but it says Blade Show 2023 right on it, 25 of 100. And so that's a cool one. I've been carrying that one a bunch. Oh, sorry, folks. I always forget to put this on Do Not Disturb before we go. And then the other ProTech, I bought 3 ProTechs, actually. Well, I bought 2 and Leslie bought 1. This is their Malibu non-automatic with a sapphire blue blade and pearl button and stuff, button lock. So that's pretty cool too. And then I bought a Bradford fixed blade. I bought some kitchen knives. And then I bought Leslie. There was an automatic that she wanted because she carries. Actually, most of her knives are automatics, so she carries a few different things. So yeah, it was super fun. And then I bought another pistol at the gun store. So yeah, just how it goes. I'll show you that on Patreon. I'm not going to show you that here, but anyway, so let's chat about acoustic versus electric, kind of fun stuff. It is not Cerakote or anodizing. It is DLC, actually, on both of these blades. I'm interested. It's interesting to talk about acoustic versus electric. We came out with this video yesterday about the carbon fiber acoustic guitar. And of course, everybody wants to jump to the tone wood thing. I don't care about that. But construction of guitars is an interesting thing because once you break tradition with how a guitar is constructed, people kind of lose their minds. Of course, the guitar doesn't have a truss rod in it, the carbon fiber one that we showed you yesterday, but it doesn't need one. And as soon as you say something like your guitar doesn't need a truss rod if the neck is stiff enough, then people just start to kind of, they just kind of blow their minds get all messed up. And then the other, when we're going to talk about this in a minute, I'm going to dive into this some. Because of the way guitars make sound, everybody gets really hung up on the fact that the guitar has to vibrate. And the bottom line is, even an acoustic guitar doesn't have to vibrate. Only part of the acoustic guitar has to vibrate. That's the soundboard, which is the top. So there's all kinds of approaches to that. But the neck, everybody wants to say that the tone is in the neck. It's not. It's in the soundboard. And an electric guitar, the tone is in the pickups. Now, if you want to feel the guitar vibrate in your hands, then get one that shakes a lot. But it's not going to have very good sustain by comparison. So, it's all a give and a take. It just depends on what's important to you. It's really interesting. That people get really hung up every time you even step outside of any kind of guitar construction that challenges their reality of what they think it should be because that's the way it's been done for so long. Another thing we talked about yesterday was never needing to adjust the truss rod in a guitar except for weather changes. So let's dive into that a little bit. So the only reason, let's even break this down even further. The mechanical action of the guitar is such that the strings are trying to basically fold the guitar in half at all times because you've got, like 100 to 120 pounds of string tension pulling the guitar and it's trying to bend it in half, right? So what you need to do is you need to have a guitar that's stiff enough that makes it to where it doesn't bend in half, even a little bit, even a couple of thousandths of an inch, right? We want it to be stable because a couple of thousandths of an inch will give you tuning instability. So the way you do that is you construct the guitar in such a way that it doesn't happen. Even a bolt-on neck will be fine with that. Because people don't realize this, but even 3-bolt necks, the architecture and the engineering behind a 90-degree with a pin going through it, the screw of the neck, it's fine. The guitar's not going to ever come apart. Even strings, bridges aren't ever going to come apart out of a top loader telly bridge, even if it's basswood. Like all those things, the screws are going to pull out. No, they aren't. It's just not how physics works at those angles and at that tension and everything. People that are way smarter than the folks that make those comments have thought about this stuff, and it's fine. It's going to be fine. So the engineering has gone into it. Everything's fine. The length of the screws, the thread count of the screws, all those things, okay? Because the guitar's trying to bend itself in half this way. It's pretty easy to engineer around that. What's not easy to engineer around is the expansion and contraction that happens with weather when the neck takes on moisture and relieves itself of moisture when the humidity changes. Mostly humidity more than temperature. And then what happens is that neck relaxes and because it expands. It actually expands and contracts. And as it expands and contracts, it pulls against the tension and it relaxes the tension, which means you need to adjust the truss rod to compensate for that. Now, the way you can do that is you can remove the ability for moisture to go in and out of the neck, i.e. roasting a maple neck. Because that caramelizes all the sugars in the neck, it basically becomes more solid and less moisture can be sucked into the neck or let go of. So now that neck can be straighter and you have to adjust the truss rod less. When you go to a carbon fiber neck that is properly constructed, we'll get into that in a minute, the difference. When you get into a carbon fiber neck, there is no motion because if it is properly constructed and stiff enough, there is no motion. So therefore, you do not need to have a truss rod. So do thin line tellies with the F-hole have less sustain from the same telly with no F-hole? I know with a full hollow there is pickup microphonics issue. Do semi-hollows do that? Yeah, they have a microphonic issue as well. Yeah, because you're moving air. So not moving air. And that's a whole nother thing. What you're doing there is you're moving the pickup in relation to the strings. In a perfect world, you want the pickup to be 100% still and you want the strings to move over it. The more the pickup moves in relation to the strings, the less accurate the note is, I guess. Is an easy way to say it, because both things are moving at the same time. You want this to be still and you want the strings to be moving over it. The more you allow the guitar to move underneath the strings, there's cancellation, there is sympathetic vibrations and ghost notes and all those sorts of things. And that happens more with a hollow body guitar than it does with a solid body guitar, because everything can move around so much more. So back to the carbon fiber thing. Once you take the ability for moisture to come in and out of the neck, therefore, you do not need a truss rod if the neck is stiff enough to never, ever move, because it won't move if it's engineered correctly. And people are going to be like, well, what if I change tuning? What if I change string tensions? What if I change string gauges? There are people with white aprons and pen protectors who are way smarter than me and you, who have thought about how thick carbon fiber needs to be, how stiff it needs to be, how the fibers lay in there. There's a lot of technology that goes into carbon fiber. And if the person is smart with it, and Matthew McPherson is very smart with it, you should look at his bows. Matthew's archery, you should look at how much he understands harmonics and vibration in a bow of a guitar, in a bow, like a actual archery bow. He is very smart about this stuff. So, once you take that out, you don't need it. So then the next argument is, okay, well, what about playing style? I play harder, therefore I need more neck relief than a person who doesn't play as hard. Here's where we get into another philosophy that will blow your mind and will cause people to hate each other in comment sections, etc. But the bottom line is, if you set your fretboard flat on your guitar and then put the strings on and tune it up to pitch, it will be fine. It will be fine. Because, and this is something that is so basic to understand, but people somehow do not understand it, that when you draw a straight line from the nut to the saddle, and then you introduce an angle of, let's say, probably about 2 degrees, because you're looking at like a 3 to 5 millimeter string height at the 12th fret. So maybe 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. That string, when you pluck it open with the fretboard flat and your string height set correctly and your nut height set correctly, let's call it 15 thousandths in the nut, and we'll call it 4 millimeters at the 12th fret. Okay. Perfect setup on a guitar. It's like a great low action setup on a guitar. If you pluck the open E or the high E, low E or high E, and they do not buzz, they will never buzz, even with the fretboard flat. And why can I be sure of that? Because as I press on the first fret, what happens? This angle becomes more acute. As I press on the second fret, this angle becomes, well, this doesn't go higher, but this goes lower, becomes more acute. This angle continues to become more acute as you go up the fretboard, meaning that from the first fret to the second fret to the third fret to the fourth fret, I'm exaggerating, but it gets steeper. So if you push down on the first fret and the guitar doesn't buzz, when you push down on the 7th fret, the guitar will never buzz. When you push down on the 9th fret, the 11th fret, the 14th fret, it will never buzz. If 3 things are possible, if 3 things are correct: your nut height is correct, your fretwork is good, and your string height at the 12th fret is correct, and your fretboard is completely flat. Now, the only reason people don't set their fretboards flat goes back to wood. Because you have no margin for error there. This is not about playing style. This is about margin for error. If you have your fretboard completely flat, and because the weather, it accidentally goes into back bow a couple of thousandths of an inch, then you can have a fret buzz. So you put a couple of thousandths of an inch of neck relief into it, not because of string tension, not because of anything else, not because of playing style or how hard you play or any of that. It's because because it's wood and it moves, you need that little margin of error to work with so that the neck never goes into back bow. Now on a carbon fiber guitar, when the guitar will never go into back bow because it's engineered correctly, at least on a McPherson, you don't need to worry about adjusting for playing style because you will never have to worry about that. How you adjust for playing style is like any other acoustic guitar. You just use your saddle height. So it's very simple. It's just a different way of thinking about it. And it's accepting the reality that geometry works, that geometry is a thing. And that if you fret the first fret on your guitar and it doesn't buzz and your fretwork is good, none of the rest will, if your neck is straight. If your neck is straight and remains straight. It's a kind of an interesting thing. So then the next question that came up, and this is where we're going to get into what we put in the thumbnail. It's a kind of a long way around to get to this. Somebody said, well, what if the neck is so stiff, then doesn't that affect the tone of the guitar? So here's where we get into the difference between an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar and how both of them actually work. Let's get this right out of the way. And if you have guitar questions and you want to keep asking guitar questions, please get in the comments and ask them with a bunch of question marks in front of them. If you use a super chat, I'll drop what I'm doing and I will answer it right away. But as you know, I'm doing this by myself. So the leaving a little up bow has nothing to do with leaving the string room to vibrate. No, it does not. Nope. And this is something, if you go back and watch and I'm going to tell you right now, if you go back and watch my old content, this is something I believe I have been wrong about for a lot of years. Even, all of us, we think this way because we've been told a certain thing for so many years. And I spoke to a couple of people who got me. I'm going to tell you, Matt at Texas Toast, he's like, look at this. Like, actually look at this. Don't think about what you know. Like, actually think about the logic of geometry and what's going on here. And I'm like, wow, I have never thought about this before. You're right. And so I started doing it. I started setting all my guitars completely flat. No fret buzzes. Great action. They play and I play hard. I do not have a light hand. You guys hear me in my videos pull my guitars out of tune all the time. There's people in the comments on my videos, I can't believe that guitar's out of tune. It's not out of tune. It's because I'm a ham fist and I pull it out of tune. I play hard. No fret buzz, no problem, ever. And I lived in a motorhome for 2 years. So we had all kinds of atmospheric issues and, as far as environment-induced stuff. So, yeah. Interesting, right? It's just I'm just, drop some thought bombs on you to make you think about stuff. It's just an interesting thing. It's like not a... And what's weird is it's so logical when you look at it and think about it. But here's the other thing. Let's get into electric versus acoustic, because a lot of these things that we think we know about guitars got directly pulled from acoustic guitars to electric guitars and vice versa, and it does not apply. So I'm just going to say this right now. Here's my just going to say it moment that people need to, I wish we could just blast this from the treetops. Electric guitars and acoustic guitars are not the same instrument. They do not work on the same physics. They do not work on the same operating system. Okay? This is like a BB gun and a striker fired pistol. They look the same on the outside, but they do not operate the same. One operates with air, one operates with gunpowder and a striker. You can hold them up to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and they both look like guns, but they are not the same. They do not operate the same. So let's get that out of the way right now, and now let's dive into it. Electric guitar is, and we've talked about this many times, but it's hard for people to grasp it, so we'll keep talking about it. An electric guitar is a transducer. It is an electrical device. It is not an acoustic device. So we take vibration from a vibrating string and we place it and we basically magnetize the string by putting it in the magnetic field. And that vibrates, that basically pushes that magnetic flux around, and it causes electricity to happen here in this coil. Okay. What the rest of the guitar is doing essentially does not matter because the string is vibrating within this magnetic field. Now, you could say, yeah, but sustain because hardness of wood and weight of the body and blah, 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 all that stuff. When you introduce vibration to the string, there's the amplitude of it, which means how hard you struck it. So how far back and forth that string is going to go and how much it's going to move. And then there's decay. And that's basically it. Those are basically the two things. That's pretty much it. Everything else is tuned with electricity. Everything else is tuned with this and everything after this. In an electric guitar, the vibrational stuff, the sympathetic vibrations, all of those various things are basically things that take away from the accuracy of the note that you've introduced when you struck the string. So a bad nut, a bad saddle, bad intonation, because when you take two competing notes and they cancel each other out because the harmonics are off because bad intonation, then you're just literally stopping the string from vibrating or causing it to vibrate in a way that you didn't intend for it to vibrate. Okay? That's how an electric guitar works. It's the amplitude, which is how far it moves back and forth. The frequency is only based on the tension over the distance, right? And I mean, the pitch is based on the tension over the distance and the decay of the note as it goes from when you first strike it to when it ends, or when you touch the string in a different place and you change the note. That's it. It's way easy. It's way easy. Now you can introduce all kinds of other things through, somebody talked about unpotted pickups. What is the low E size on that set of 13s that you used on the McPherson? 56. 13 to 56. So this is not complicated. So yes, you can make a guitar feel different by changing, and this is where I guess we would get into some tone wood stuff. You can make the guitar feel different by changing the weight of it, the density of it, the material that it's made of, because it will vibrate differently in your lap, which will actually affect your inner ear, which will affect how you hear the thing. But the sound of the guitar is not actually changing. It's it's how the guitar feels in relation to your body. You can do this experiment where you play a guitar yourself versus hand it to your buddy and just strum chords, not like playing style and not like all that, but it will sound different across the room than it will in your lap because, again, science, there's something to do with your inner ear, which basically makes it to where the vibrations that you feel in your body affect how you hear with your ear, because there's your inner ear, your middle ear, and your outer ear. Sciencey stuff. But the bottom line is, when you change how the guitar vibrates on your lap, it will change to you and to no one else how the guitar sounds. There's a whole study on this. Mice, feet, vibrating feet, blah, blah, blah. There's tons of studies on this. Very interesting stuff. So after that, we tune everything with electricity. Okay. With an acoustic guitar is a drum. An acoustic guitar is a percussive instrument. You're moving air with an acoustic guitar. You are not moving air with an electric guitar. You are not. I'm just going to let that sink in. You are not moving air with an electric guitar. You're turning the kinetic energy from a vibrating string into electricity. That is all you're doing. And the only thing you can affect is how hard you pluck it and how long the note lasts. Everything else you tune with electricity. You can affect, I suppose, so if we back up a second, you could probably affect certain overtones and vibrations that you get with saddles and nuts and things directly involved with the tonal area of the string. And you could probably make an argument that things beyond the string, like the bridge, like got a trapeze or something, how it attaches to the guitar, all the ding-dongs that think those thick Callahan bridges are way awesome because you can bang on them when they're hanging on a nail, whatever. String pull behind, all that stuff. You could make an argument for that, and all the tone wood dudes could make an argument that when you change the density of the wood, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'll let you have that. That's fine. I don't care. It doesn't bother me because 99.9.9.97899.9 of everything that happens in an electric guitar happens between the nut and the saddle, and including the nut and the saddle materials themselves. After that, the percentage of effect of all those other extraneous things that are not electricity have so much of a less of percentage. I'll give you maybe, okay, they have some, but people put way too much focus on them because we're not talking about vibration here. We're only talking about amplitude and sustain. We're not talking about changing the timbre of the note, which is tone. Okay. We're talking about amplitude and sustain, period. How long the vibration lasts, period. The end of story. And sustain is not tone. Timbre is tone. So just a couple other truth bombs there that a lot of people can't handle. Okay. So acoustic guitar. Acoustic guitar is totally different. It's a drum. You're moving air. When you strike the string itself is not what you hear. The string itself moves the soundboard. So the way you tune the sound of an electric guitar is how much the top of the guitar moves as it interacts with the back and the sides of the guitar to push air to your eardrum. It is a percussive instrument. All it is a snare drum. That's all it is. And instead, it's a banjo. I mean, really, it's the same thing as a banjo. You're just moving air. So the shape of the guitar, the thickness of the guitar, now wood really, really matters, right? Because the density and the grain count of the wood, the consistency of the wood from one end to the other, how thick it is it plies? Is it solid? The bracing of the wood, all of those things can be tuned. The shape of the bracing, the placement of the bracing, the thickness of the top. I have a breedlove that's actually thicker on one side of the top and thinner on the other to even out the low to high frequencies, because now we're talking about moving air. And every time you move air back and forth just a little bit, you're affecting what hits your eardrum. Now you really are affecting tone. So going back to the carbon fiber thing, people were saying, well, if the neck is so stiff, then why will that affect the tone of the guitar? What's interesting is on an acoustic guitar, really, you should be isolating as much of that vibrational energy in the box and not losing a lot of energy out to the neck. All these people that say the tone of the guitar is dependent totally on the neck. No, the feel of the guitar is affected by how much you feel in the neck, and you might get high on that. But the bottom line is an acoustic guitar is a drum, and the movement of the air should all be happening over here, not over here. And what's really cool about for those of you that have played a McPherson and an electric a carbon fiber or a wood guitar, you will find that it's something that you kind of have to get used to, that your left hand or your fretting hand does not vibrate as much as with another guitar, because that construction does exactly what the person in the comments asked, and it isolates. It does not kill. It isolates the vibration in the box and it makes it into a cannon because it does not lose energy out through the neck. So when you pluck the string on an acoustic guitar, you want all the energy from that string to go through that bridge into that top and move that air. You don't want it to go down to the nut and make the peg head shake all over the place and lose energy. You don't want it to do that. You want the air part of the guitar to move lots of air and as accurately as you intended when you struck the string. So it's a really cool thing to feel that. It's a weird thing. When I first got my first McPherson, my first carbon fiber McPherson, I literally, there's two things I noticed when I picked up that guitar for the first time. One is the carbon fiber does not heat up to your body heat as quickly. So I got it during the winter, I think, or I don't remember. It was cold. And I pick up the guitar and I'm like, wow, the neck is cold. This is weird. Like wood is usually warm, right? So it took me a few minutes of playing and then it was warm and it was fine. That was the number one thing I noticed that was different from a wooden guitar. The second thing I immediately noticed was that when I strum a chord, the fretting hand didn't move. It all came out here and then immediately you're like, holy crap, this thing is a cannon. Because you can definitely tell that the engineered part of that guitar is to move air, not to move your fretting hand. It's a really interesting thing. Super fun to think about. Chris Hendricks, acoustic pickups are transducers, not magnetic coils. So they're interacting with the vibrations of the top more than the string moving in a magnetic field. So anything, yes and no. Anything that takes one type of energy and converts it to another type of energy is a transducer. So this electric pickup that is a coil is a transducer. However, it does it differently. The way an acoustic pickup works, like what is in those, is what are they called? Piezo. Piezo crystals are actually a crystal that when vibration, it's like a natural occurring crystal, and when vibration hits them, they generate electricity. When these crystals vibrate, they generate electricity. So it takes the vibrating energy of the saddle, and when it vibrates, it creates electricity, but not very much. So it has to go to a preamp. That's why acoustic guitars most of the time need to have batteries. Some batteries like K&K, some pickups like K&K pickups that don't need batteries are a lot lower output, and they have more, like they have like 3 transducers, but they're all piezo crystal based. And so the vibration causes electricity to happen within the crystal. It's a weird, that's like black magic juju stuff that how do we even know that works? Hat Mike, I love that you changed your name to Hat Mike, by the way. Hey, Leslie. Hat Mike changed his name to Hat Mike. Sorry. I had to tell Leslie. I think that's amazing. Yeah, super fun. It's super fun stuff to think about. And what I love about this is something I've been doing a bunch lately, you guys, is literally simplifying things, like distilling it down instead of being so like idealistic about stuff. And like, I don't know, when I think about this technology that I am so fond of, that is so dumb, like this is, if a smartphone is a smartphone, then a tele pickup is the dumbest thing ever, right? Like there's just nothing to this. This is literally 1940s technology, probably even earlier than that. Well, I mean, Alexander Graham Bell put these in. telephones. Like, this junk is so dumb. Like, it's so simple. And we just overcomplicate things because we think things to be true because of what we heard, and it turns into this whole thing. And even if there's somebody in the comments right now who is like, you're full of crap, I need action, I need neck relief, and you're full of crap, I believe in Tonewood, and you're full of crap, okay, totally fine. You could totally believe what you want. I don't feel bad against you or towards you or whatever. And I'm sure we could totally talk about guitar stuff. It doesn't bother me at all. The only reason I'm bringing all this stuff up in this context is, even if you do think those things are important to you, make sure that they do not overcomplicate a thing that, when you distill it down, is actually very simple. Because the more simply you look at this, the more time you will have to enjoy it. I mean, I think, because you won't be fighting with people in the comments on the internet. You won't be stressed about a piece of gear in a way that makes you worry about it. You'll just play it. Like, don't worry about it. Just play it. And simplify your view of the stuff so that you can spend more time just enjoying it. It's really interesting stuff. How do you relic carbon fiber? That's a good question. I don't know. Are carbon fiber nylon string guitars a thing? Yes, Close has one. There's a link in the description. I think if you use Tone 10, you get 10% off at Close, and they do have a carbon fiber one. Does Haas make a relic version? No, they have carbon fiber, camo. They have 4 or 5 different weaves, and I think they're always kind of, experimenting with stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to think about it. I like to simplify it down. That's the most important thing. Here's the other thing too. I used to be like the people who have not commented yet because they don't agree with me, and they're in the comments right now, but they're listening, and they're like, this guy's a moron. I used to be like you. I did. Leslie pointed it out to me probably 5 years ago. She's like, you are like so idealistic about this stuff. And I'm like, I am. And what I found is, when you hang on to this traditional crap, you lose opportunities to experience cool things. So if you say, I can only play this fretboard radius, I will only use this type of material for an acoustic guitar, I will only use this type, basswood is gross because blah, 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 it only comes on cheap guitars. Well, you'll never get the opportunity then to play like those fancy Ernie Ball Majesties that are made out of basswood, that are beautiful guitars, that are amazing pieces of technology. Tube amps only for me. You're playing through a friggin' digital delay, dude. So get a come up off it and like enjoy it. I think I was doing that. I was like limiting what I enjoyed by saying that I was only going to do things a certain way. I only wanted this. And you end up finding out that the world is just going to go on without you, making all kinds of cool stuff and having all kinds of fun. And if you want to live under your rock, that's fine. That's totally cool. It's totally fine with me. And actually, if I run into you at a bar somewhere and you're, or a gig or whatever, knife show, I don't know. And you're like, hey, I'm one of those people that live under a rock and I only like what I like. You know what I'm going to say to you? Dude, what do you have? Oh, I have this old guitar and it's cool and it's the only thing I have and it's the only thing I'm going to play. Oh, wow, that's awesome. How long have you had it? I don't care. I think it's all cool. I love everything. As long as you enjoy that other people enjoy stuff, just keep that in mind too. We had to calm down some stuff on the Facebook page this morning because of that, or yesterday. But just don't limit yourself. Take a guitar right now and set it flat. Go do a setup based. No, let me say this. Go do a setup properly based on a flat fretboard. If the frets are good, if the guitar is good, if it's got good fretwork, because you can't do that either. My back tells me to purchase a weight relieved Les Paul. I 100% agree that you should do that. Yeah, I have the honeycomb, and then they have a standard. They have two different like weave carbon fibers, like a bigger weave and then a smaller weave, and then the honeycomb and then the camo. And I have the honeycomb on my big one and the camo on my other one. And then my close is like a regular plain weave. Which I like that guitar too. I'm going to do some more videos probably with the close guitar too, because they got some new stuff coming out too. And some stuff that they've told me about that it's not out yet that I'm really excited to show you if I can when it comes out. No, close is really cool. They all live in different spaces. It's just like anything else, right? It's just like I was trying to really get that across in that video yesterday. It's not about better or worse or, is it good enough for the money or whatever. They all just live in different spaces, and just understanding where they live in those different spaces and then making your choice. If you can't afford a McPherson, buy a close. They're very cool. They're very cool. The only thing I would say about a close travel guitar is it sounds like a little guitar, where the McPherson does not sound like a little guitar. But if you go into it knowing that the close sounds like a little guitar, but it plays great and the action is awesome, and you just have this living room guitar, like a Baby Taylor kind of deal where it's a little guitar, then it's fine. It's great. I have one in the living room. On the neck relief thing, my ASAT has 11s and my Jazzmaster has 9s. Both are in drop B. Yes, I'm a crazy person. The JM nut is okay. The nut slots are too high, and the JM buzzes more at fret 1. Yeah, your tuning and nut, you need to set that guitar up. Is it because of the nut or the loose strings? It's a combination of both. When you get into those very, very alternative tuning stuff, you really need to set the guitar up specifically for that. And that takes it's the same principles, but you might have to make some concessions with your string height. And definitely cut your nut in particular for that. So those are things you would have to do specifically for that setup. Flop B tuning. I like that. Yeah, no, this is fun. Yeah, somebody said the guitars are 100% magic and there is no sound. That's the other thing too. And that's kind of why I started getting away from all this super technical stuff. But sometimes you have to go back to it, right? To me, I go back to the technical stuff not to make it more complicated. I go back to it to simplify it, because it's the way a guitar works is very simple. People overcomplicate it. So sometimes I have to go back to the nerdy stuff to to simplify it. Where other people would dive in because they want to know more, they want to understand all the things, but really it's only a couple of things. And all of those other complications are kind of unnecessary and just take away from the experience, in my opinion. Yeah, super, super fun to think about. Nuts are cheap. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely talk about string tension. Travel is fun, but it interrupts my guitar addiction. That's why you need a travel carbon fiber guitar. I take one with me everywhere now. Actually, I take an amp with me too. I take the what's that thing called? The Positive Grid Spark Mini. When we go somewhere, that goes in the van, and I take that with me everywhere. Even if I don't take an electric guitar with me, because I'll always run into an electric guitar that I want to play, so I always have an amp with me, which is backwards, right? Like instead of having a guitar with you all the time, I always have an amp with me. Kind of funny. I'm learning a new song where I had to tune down a half a step. Is that enough to require a setup change? Depends on your string gauge. Typically 10s and above, you won't need to do that. I routinely, so all my guitars are in standard E-tuning, and I routinely will sit in with a bunch, like a lot of my friends that play live, because it's easier on the singer, will tune a half a step down. And so I will routinely just like show up and be like, hey, do you want to sit in? Oh yeah. And I'll just tune down a half a step and I'll just play. If you're going to do it permanently, then just look over your setup and just make sure, but so that it doesn't give you any issues. But if you're going to do it for, one song out of a gig or whatever, most Fender scale, especially guitars, because the string tension's so high anyway, will be fine going down a half a step, and you probably be totally cool. Should I get a foldable electric? That's funny. What about 8s on a 24 scale? That's pretty floppy too, right? Yeah, I've got some other Chinese travel guitar in the garage or in the closet I'd never reviewed because it was kind of terrible. I might have gave it away actually. And then I have, my daughter has, well, I have it. It's Martin, one of those Martin LXMs, like the Ed Sheeran guitar. I've got one of those too in the closet. So, well, cool, you guys. This has been fun. Thanks for hanging out with me today. How many people we got on here? 67? It's fun to chat about this stuff, kind of distill it down some, take away some of the myths and even if you don't totally agree with everything I say on these things, I hope that you go back to your guitar and be like, oh, if I look at this, I don't totally agree, but let me try this thing. And it simplifies your process and it makes you play more. You don't have to, that's the other thing I think we don't think about is this is not a binary sort of deal. If you want to adopt parts of a new thing that you hear, that's totally fine, right? Like if you like tube amps, it's not to say that you can't have a Tonex because you're a tube amp guy. Like, this is not binary. Just try things. And so, if you heard something today that you're like, that's totally stupid, I totally don't agree with that. But this other thing, I'm going to try this and see if it makes my life better. That's what we do. It's kind of fun. Awesome, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. And I guess we will see you. I might try to put out a video tomorrow. We'll see. I'm definitely going to put one out on Patreon because I got a new toy you haven't seen. And I've got some other stuff around here I was going to show you with a project that we got coming up. And I made pickups for a guitar that's not even here yet, so that's pretty cool. So we'll probably chat about some of that stuff on Patreon. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and everybody who joins the little YouTube button thingy down there and supports the DylanTalksTone.com buying pickups and stuff. And yeah, you guys are awesome. And we will see you probably tomorrow.